you have not got a job, you are a worthless human being. Consume, consume, consume until we have no planet left to consume. What you need to do is buy things that you don't need. That's the best way to support the economy. Smiling is bad for the economy. Get back inside and get back to work. That's what you should be doing. Stop putting your head out of bed. Never mind your lunch hour. The more you work, you better. Because when you die, you'll regret that you haven't worked more. Capitalism is a wonderful system. Okay, a few billion people get nothing. But still, think of all the people that get lots. Don't worry about the fact that the Chinese people had to work for 50 cents a day. They're Chinese. Who cares? There's a billion of them.
Do you like iPods? I do. I've had 4 of them, each of which was replaced at least once by warranty. And about a year ago, I bought my iPhone, which just broke and is being replaced by warranty. So in total, I've run through about 10 iPods and 1 iPhone in about 7 years. And I'll admit that I don't buy cases or treat my iPod like the tender little object that it is, because honestly, I don't have a ton of money, so if it breaks before the warranty is up, that's actually better for me financially, though it is destructive and wasteful from a holistic environmental standpoint. But capitalism requires this cyclical consumption of goods in order to grow an economy. If Apple made an iPod that was dent-proof, waterproof, shock-resistant, which is technically possible, they would go out of business, because even if the iPods only lasted 5 or 10 years, which is conservative, it would completely destroy Apple's business model. They would either be too expensive to make or too expensive for the customer to buy, though still easily possible to build. See, efficiency is the enemy of capitalism. Without using inferior quality parts and designs that break down quickly, Apple wouldn't even be able to sell enough iPods to fund the research and development necessary to make iPods. When the ultimate goal is making money, the question for a company becomes not how can I make the best, longest lasting product, but how can I balance the quality of the product with the profit I will be making from it. The obvious goal of any company within capitalism is to increase efficiency in their manufacturing or whatever they do. And this makes sense because who doesn't want to increase efficiency? The problem comes in, at least for capitalism, because machines routinely show their cost efficiency over human labor in almost every sector of every market. Thus, in order to gain ultimate efficiency, a company would have to fire as many employees as possible and replace them with machines. But then these employees will no longer be making a salary and can no longer afford to purchase any of the products that the machines make. Proponents of capitalism often cite the profit motive as if it's the only possible motivating factor that pushes progress. This is historically and blatantly false, as many of the greatest inventions and ideas from our past did not come from people looking for profit. Also, millions of people volunteer for countless causes all over the world, and many more would volunteer were they adequately fed, sheltered, and free of wage slavery. The profit motive does push society to a degree, but it also incentivizes greedy business practice, human rights violations, monopolistic tendencies, and the fear of losing wealth leads rotating wealthy CEOs and corporate control groups to push media fear and large-scale propaganda campaigns on the public in order to maintain their status. Simply put, we have empty homes beside the homeless, closed down factories, willing workers, plenty of resources to go around, yet over 1 billion people starving. And we've been trained to blame the victims. We say, if only they'd worked harder, been more competitive, or had a better outlook on life, they'd be millionaires, right? Or at least middle class, but I think we all know that's bullshit. If you were born without any access to food or money, you're going to starve. Our markets have created this box of false scarcity that pits us in competition against one another for resources that we could and should all have access to.
People usually just shoot off at the mouth without any understanding, because they're encouraged to do so in this particular kind of culture, where ego and winning the game, gaining the most funds that you can, the best in property and wealth. We admire people that are wealthy. In the Holy Land, they thought they were greedy. In other words, we're running into a lot of new problems today because of what we emphasize in this culture. The word success, to me, means earning a lot of money and having a home and 2 cars and children in college. Success, to me, is entirely different than what success is to the average person. Success is being a successful human being in terms of pursuing what you believe in. If you believe in making paintings, writing poetry, writing music, if this is what you really want, you're successful to yourself. But to be successful to a culture means to sell yourself short of what you really want.
If I may, I, for one, have never advocated passive anything. I am with Mr. Jinnah. We must never submit to such laws. Ever. And I think our resistance must be active and provocative. Yeah? I want to embarrass all those who wish to treat us as slaves. Thank you. All. Forgive my stupid illustration.
Allow me. No, please. But I want to change their minds. Not kill them for weaknesses we all possess.
And what resistance would you offer?
A day of prayer and fasting.
You mean a general strike?
I mean a day of prayer and fasting. Of course, no work could be done, no buses, no trains, no factories, no administration. The country would stop.
God, it would terrify them. Could you get people to do it?
Why not? They're calling you Mahatma. Great soul. Fortunately, such news comes very slowly to where I live.
Now, my grandmother was a wonderful person. She taught me how to play the game Monopoly. She understood that the name of the game is to acquire. She would accumulate everything she could, and eventually she became the master of the board. And eventually, every time, she would take my last dollar, and I would quit in utter defeat. And then she would always say the same thing to me. She'd look at me and she'd say, "One day, you'll learn to play the game." One summer, I played Monopoly with a neighbor almost every day, all day long. We'd play Monopoly for hours. And that summer, I learned to play the game. I came to understand the only way to win is to make a total commitment to acquisition. I came to understand that money and possessions, that's the way that you keep score. And by the end of that summer, I was more ruthless than my grandmother. I was ready to bend the rules if I had to win that game. And I sat down with her to play that fall. I took everything she had. I destroyed her financially and psychologically. I watched her give her last dollar and quit in utter defeat. And then she had one more thing to teach me. Then she said, "Now it all goes back in the box." All those houses and hotels, all the railroads and utility companies, all that property and all that wonderful money. Now it all goes back in the box. I didn't want it to go back in the box. No, she said. None of it was really yours. You got all heated up about it for a while. But it was around a long time before you sat down at the board. And it will be here after you're gone. Players come and players go. But it all goes back in the box. houses and cars, titles and clothes, filled barns, bulging portfolios, even your body. Because the fact is that everything I clutch and consume and hoard is going to go back in the box, and I'm going to lose it all. That's not much of an ROI on that. You have to ask yourself, when you finally get the ultimate promotion, when you've made the ultimate purchase, when you buy the ultimate home, when you have stored up financial security and climbed the ladder of success to the highest rung you can possibly climb it, and the thrill wears off, and it will wear off, then what? How far do you have to walk down that road before you see where it leads? Surely you understand, it'll never be enough. So you have to ask yourself the question, what matters?
The hands of the many must join as one, and together we'll cross the river.